How to ruin your spinning reel in 6 easy steps. Step number 1 of how to ruin it is laying your spinning reel in dirt in the sand. So spinning reels hang below the rod and sit closer to the ground than bait casters, right? And that makes them far more likely to pick up sand and shoreline grit, especially for those bank anglers. And here's why that matters, because sand is mostly made of silica, right? Quartz, a very hard mineral. And on the Mohs hardness scale, which measures scratch resistance from 1 to 10, silica ranks around 6 to 7. Now, compare that to what's inside of your reel, and many spinning reel components are made from aluminum alloys, roughly 2.5 to 3 on the Mohs scale, brass gears, roughly 3 to 4, and many of the stainless steels used in reel bearings and shafts, typically around 5 to 6, depending on the alloy. And then you have coated carbon steel components, often similar or slightly lower depending on the coating and the treatment. And so what that means is that silica sand is often as hard or harder than the materials used in many of your reel components. So when that sand gets inside of your reel, you've basically introduced a microscopic grinding compound into a precision machine. Now, spinning reels are especially vulnerable because of those exposed parts, right? You got your line roller bearings, your bail hinge assemblies, your spool bearings, and your spool shafts. And these components operate with extremely tight tolerances, which means even tiny abrasive particles can interfere with smooth rotation. And once those silica particles get inside, every retrieve continues wearing those parts down. Now, you might not notice it right away, but over time, it leads to rough retrieves, noisy rollers, and premature bearing failure. Manufacturers like Penn and Shimano and Abu Garcia consistently warn that sand and debris contamination is one of the most common reasons reels need servicing. All right, number 2, over tightening your drag, right? Spinning reels rely heavily on smooth drag performance. Now, if your drag is locked down like you're trying to win a tug of war with a submarine, you're increasing load on the main gear, the pinion gear, and the spool shaft, and placing more torque stress on those internal components. Drag systems are designed to slip and absorb shock, and when you eliminate that slip, shock load increases stress on those internal gear components instead of being absorbed by the drag stack. And manufacturers also recommend backing off the drag before those long-term storage scenarios, right? This is going to help you prevent long-term washer compression and preserve drag smoothness. Now, it won't destroy your reel instantly, but repeated shock loading absolutely accelerates internal wear over time. All right, number 3, reel while the drag is slipping. Now, when a fish is pulling drag and you crank anyways, what you're actually doing is mostly generating heat, and heat accelerates drag wear over time. You gotta understand that spinning reels rely heavily on smooth drag performance to help prevent sudden line tension spikes and other performance issues. Now, if your drag is slipping heavily, you're usually not gaining much line by cranking harder anyways. Let the fish run, gain line when it stops pulling, and your drag system and your reel will last longer. Step number 4 of how to ruin your spinning reel really fast is to over oil it or use the wrong lubricant. And this one surprises people. More oil is not better. Spinning reel bearings operate at very high speeds, right? And bearing manufacturers like Boca Bearings and reel manufacturers like Shimano both recommend minimal lubrication for proper performance. Spinning reel components, especially line roller bearings, can spin thousands of revolutions per minute during a retrieve or a fish run. And at those speeds, lubrication has to be extremely precise. Now, if you put too much oil, this is what happens, right? It's gonna slow bearing RPM by increasing that fluid resistance. 2, it's gonna trap debris like dust and sand and salt particles. And 3, it's going to reduce that smooth operation and increase that internal friction. And using the wrong lubricants can create even bigger problems. Now, let's talk about one product anglers commonly grab from the garage: 3-in-1 oil. 3-in-1 oil is a light household oil, and it works fine for basic hinges and tools, but it's not designed for high-speed bearings. It tends to break down faster under high RPM, it attracts contamination, it provides less stable lubrication compared to those reel-specific oils. And here's the thing, it might make a reel feel smoother short-term, but it usually doesn't provide long-term protection for those precision reel components. Also, a lot of people ask me the question, what about WD-40 and those general purpose sprays? WD-40 works well as a cleaner and a water displacer, but it's not designed to be a long-term lubricant for reel bearings. It evaporates quickly and can even strip away protective lubrication already inside your spinning reel. Also, some of those general purpose sprays can also displace factory grease or degrade certain plastics or rubber components over time. And what a lot of people don't understand is that spinning reels operate with extremely tight tolerances, often measured in thousandths or even 10,000ths of an inch. And using the wrong lubricant or too much oil can significantly reduce performance and accelerate internal wear. Now, this is where people push back on me all the time. I've been using 3-in-1 oil for years and it works great. And I believe you, right? But just because something works doesn't mean that it's working the way it was designed to work. Not all oil is the same. 3-in-1 oil is made for general household use. There's hinges, the tools, basic moving parts. It's not specifically engineered for high-speed precision bearings and tight gear tolerances. And so what you get with those fishing reel lubricants, they're really designed for higher RPM, right? They're corrosion resistant and they help with contamination control. Now, your reel might still run on the wrong oil, but it can increase internal wear and reduce long-term performance over time. Step number 5, really great way to ruin your spinning reel, is to store it wet and never clean it, right? Now we're getting into one of the biggest reel killers out there, moisture and contamination. If you really want to destroy your spinning reel, fish rain, fish mud, fish sand, fish salt water, and then put your reel away wet and never clean it. Now, spinning reels are especially vulnerable because they have more exposed moving parts than your bait casters. Your bail, your line roller, your rotor assembly, your spool shaft, and your drag components are constantly exposed to water, debris, and contamination. Now, here's where the damage starts. Because moisture trapped inside of your reel components can start corrosion fairly quickly. Corrosion research and marine maintenance standards show that oxidation can begin forming within roughly 24 to 48 hours when metal components remain damp. And salt water makes this, as you can imagine, dramatically worse. Because salt residue is hygroscopic, meaning it attracts moisture from the air. So even after your reel looks dry, salt can continue pulling moisture into internal components and accelerating that corrosion. And once again, you usually won't notice this immediately, but over time, it's going to lead to those rough retrieves and noisy or seized line rollers, reduced drag smoothness, and premature bearing failure. Now you also got to understand your reel's not going to rust like a rusty old truck, right? So what's going to happen is a lot of these internal like brass and your stainless steel, it's going to pit and it's going to corrode. It's not going to necessarily rust. And that's when you're going to get that roughness that you feel a lot of times within your spinning reel. At the end of the day, most spinning reels don't fail because anglers catch too many fish. They fail because moisture and contamination were allowed to stay inside precision components long enough to cause that damage. And if you really want to ruin your spinning reel, never lubricate it. This might be the biggest of all. I know some of you watching has never lubricated your spinning reel ever, and you swear it feels fine. It doesn't. It just feels familiar to you. Spinning reels are precision machines with constant metal on metal contact. You got it between the gears, your bearings, and moving assemblies. And without proper lubrication, those line roller bearings become noisy. Those bail mechanisms can become stiff or corroded. Those bearings are going to wear prematurely, and that retrieve becomes rough and less efficient. Those higher end reels often use sealed or corrosion resistant bearings, but many of the entry level and mid-range models use more basic bearing systems that are more exposed to contamination. And even those sealed bearings are not 100% maintenance free, just maintenance reduced. Now, if this video hit a little too close to home and you're realizing your spinning reel might be overdue for some maintenance, hey, no judgment. Every angler learns this stuff the hard way at some point. I know I did. And that's why I put together my next video, 12 critical places you can lubricate your spinning reel. And you can check that out right there. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.